Hello and welcome to the Low Carb Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Holly Jean, and I'm with my host, Leah. Hi, Leah.
Hi, Holly. Hi, everyone.
So we are changing things up on you guys because normally we have a few guests in between co-host episodes because we did just recently do a co-host episode. But this is we'll call this a special edition.
It's a special announcement.
Co-host. Yeah. We're doing kind of going off our regular schedule because we are making some changes to the podcast and we wanted to share those with you, our audience. And also, I think even invite the opportunity for some feedback as we make some changes. Leah, do you want to kind of go over what some of these are or like where we're starting?
Yeah, well, Holly and I have been feeling lately, and, if you're a long-time listener, you would know we've kind of been talking about all aspects of health. We don't just talk about low carb or just keto or anything like that, although we do speak about it a lot. But, we feel there is more to us and more that we can give and more to what we believe in than just following one particular dietary paradigm. Even though we like to encompass it all under the one kind of big one in that we're not the standard Australian American diet. But in saying that, bioindividuality, it goes along with what we believe in as functional nutritional therapy practitioners. So we decided that we're going to go for a bit of a name change, a bit of a branding change, a bit of a change to how we're going to do some things. And we've been thinking about it for a while, and there's been some recent things that have come to light behind the scenes that people may or may not know about. And for us, we just felt this was the right time to make that change. It felt good with us. It felt like it was the right time prompting us. And Holly, do you want to share with our listeners what the new name's going to be?
Yes. So we are transitioning from Low Carb Conversations, and our new name will be Real Health Conversations. And that's because, like Leah said, yes, we still talk about keto. Yes, we talk about low carb. But really, we, like Leah and I ourselves, like we don't always do keto. We're not always doing low carb as our bodies are changing, our lifestyles are changing, we're fluctuating. However, the core foundation and principles of the nutrition beliefs that we have do revolve around real food, but we do also understand that there is a spectrum of carb levels that people can tolerate and not tolerate. And so, as Leah said, we really just want to focus on bioindividuality. And yes, that happens with diet and nutrition, but we also talk so much about mindset and movement and environmental factors and stress and sleep. And there really is so much more that goes into health than just your nutrition and just your diet. And we have been talking about those things. Since I've been on the show, we've really kind of transitioned away, and I don't even know if it's a transition. I think I prefer to say it's an evolution.
Yeah.
And I think it's more reflective of the feedback we get from listeners and the way health is going, where people really are looking for something that is more holistic and maybe just not a singular dietary philosophy.
Yeah. And in saying that, I feel like not much is really going to change, like, maybe a new name and a new logo and website, whatever, but the underlying theme of the podcast has always been bringing news articles, having someone talk about the articles. But we've always kind of done it or tried to attempt to, in most times, do that through a filter of a low carb kind of ketogenic lifestyle, always bringing it back to that topic, where now we really want to focus on what you read in the news and see in the news isn't always the right information, but how do you disseminate what is the right information for you? Well, how do you know? Like, I was thinking about this, about my journey. From a teenager, I was always like as a younger child, I was bullied because of my weight issues. And as a teenager, even though I'd, grew into my body, I guess, people still labeled me with that same label. And I grew up on the Gold Coast in Australia, which is a very, I don't want to generalize, but very superficial, very, it's kind of beach-like, and everyone's about tans and beauty and looking good and all those kind of things that go with that culture. And not everybody, but on the general. And I used to get really
similar to what I grew up with in Southern California.
Yeah, that kind of idea. And I used to read like Cosmopolitan magazine and Dolly magazine and those women's magazines, even, reading some of the like older lady ones, whatever, you'd pick them up and you'd flick through them. And I would be so mad every week. There's a new diet in there. Like, try this new diet, try this diet that does this. And I'd be mad about it, but I'd want to try it because I felt like I didn't have any choice in the matter about it. And people had labeled me into this kind of person that I was, that I didn't feel like I was. And so fast forward, when I went to university, I actually studied media communications, and I was all about breaking down the media and, finding, knowing that whatever you read is not always what you see. And it's the same with the internet. I get so upset looking at social media and things like that about, every day there's a new article, some kind of piece of information, some news. And one of the biggest questions clients come to me with are like, how do I know what's right for me? How do I break down that information? Because it feels like every week I'm trying a different diet because that's what's being suggested or recommended to me. And I feel like we've somehow gone down that kind of path again in the low carb world, in the keto world, in the carnivore, like with all the ones that keep coming out and everyone's trying the new thing. And I know that, ourselves, Holly, we do experiment and try different things, see what it's like. And, whether it's worth recommending to our clients as well. But I really want to break down some of these news articles that we're seeing and pull them apart and spend more time looking at the topic at hand through our lens as experts, as functional nutritional therapy practitioners, through still having guests come in and still talk about the chosen topic, looking at case studies, and breaking it down so that people can make informed and empowered choices before making decisions or finding the right person to work with that's going to help them if that's what they need.
Yes. Wonderful. All those things. And yeah, like Leah said, it's about deciphering the things that you read and how you either apply it to you in your life, or maybe you take little pieces that feel like that would work for you, or how do you disregard things altogether? But ultimately, what it is going to come down to is looking objectively at the news headlines that are coming at us in regards to health. What's true, what's not true, what's true for you, and how do you know that? So we're going to talk a lot more about listening to your body, the questions you should ask yourself when trying to figure out how to listen to your body so that you could be more empowered and informed when all these things keep coming at us. And so like Leah said, we will still continue to have guests on the show, but it might not be every single week because we also want to start doing more education and empowering things too. So we might spend some episodes diving deeper into certain topics and doing case studies. And we really had a lot of fun on our last recording where we got to go through and like ask some questions and go through some internet questions as we would if they were a client in our office asking questions. And I think that's really what people like to see too, is like, how do you start asking those questions? How do you apply them to yourself? And if I were to go and work with someone, what might that look like? How can someone help me? Because sometimes it gets really hard trying to DIY everything ourselves too. So those are the things we would like to do. So we would love to hear your feedback if you have any thoughts on any of those things, or suggestions for us as well as we continue to blaze a new trail.
I think the transition will take a little while. So for the meantime, if you still want to reach out to us, you can still go to our website, which is lowcarbconversations.com, and find all our details there on how to contact us. All of that's not changing just yet, but we will be doing it over time, and making the transition as seamless as we can for everybody, so that you can still find us and know where to go and everything like that. So, but yeah, we're excited to just have a little bit more, breathe a bit more energy into the podcast in terms of what we can offer. We've had so many amazing guests on the podcast over the years, like so many amazing people.
Yes.
And now it's just kind of like, we'd like to showcase some of our knowledge that we have and our skills as well, to bring into that, into the realm as well, so that you can hear from us. And we hope that you'll really enjoy it. But if you've got any feedback, good or bad, feel free to send it through to us. We'd love to hear it. We really want to know if you feel like this is going down the right path, or you still want to hear more keto and low carb. Let us know. We can always, dive deeper into some of the topics with that. But yeah, I'm excited to talk more about the holistic health realm as well, which, Holly and I both, use other methods other than just, changing our diet in order to help us succeed in life. So I think it's important to talk about all the topics that are out there.
Yes. So on that note, we do have an article that we wanted to talk about today. This one just really stood out to me. I don't know how I came across it when I was looking for something completely different, and I came across this article, and I just was so drawn into it and reading these women, their stories and their experiences. The title of it is, I often wonder what I could achieve if I wasn't focusing on my own tiny war against myself. This is a UK magazine, Stylist UK, and it talks about 100 women and they're sharing their thoughts on weight. So this is only the first 1 through 20 of the women. But it just reminded me that every single person is on a journey, and no matter where we are, we still have the battle of our minds. And it doesn't matter how much mindset work we've done, how much we're growing, how much we're changing and improving ourselves, or even if we're in one of those periods of a lull, or maybe we are kind of stuck, we are always in our minds, always in our minds. Like, that just really seems to be the thing that is at like the crux of all the issues that we have, especially when it comes to health, whether it's dealing with past trauma, whether it's dealing with or having flashbacks of a comment someone made to you when you were young, or just like playing these stories over and over in our minds. And so I think, like, to me, it was just really impactful to read these other women's stories and to realize, oh my gosh, it's not just my clients, or it's not just my friends, it's not just me. Like, I'm a grown adult. A lot of my friends are also nutritional therapy practitioners like Leah. These are still conversations we're having as educated women, as women who know better, as women who have lived a lot of life and done a lot of self-work. These are still things that we struggle with and deal with and talk about. And so I wanted to talk about it on the show today.
I think it's a really important topic to talk about too. And especially with children, and even if you don't have children, with friends, with younger people that, maybe you're, an aunt or whatever, these are important conversations to have, that, yeah, everybody has something that they're working on. And I think, I'll use I love examples. Another example, yesterday was International Yoga Day, and I really wanted to put a post on social media to reflect back on how the journey that I've had over the years of becoming a yoga teacher and what that's meant to me. And it took me like literally, I don't know, longer than it should have to find the photo that I wanted to post, because I didn't like the way that I looked in any of my photo shoot shots or whatever that I had of myself doing yoga. And I was just like, this is ridiculous that I'm even feeling this way. I teach in front of people all the time. Everybody sees my body. Like, so what does it matter if I'm sticking a picture of myself on social media? Why have I got this talk in my head about needing it to be perfect? And I was even looking at the one that I posted, which is a beautiful photo that my husband took. And I'm like, oh, my fingers aren't perfect in it. My leg's not turned in the, you know what I mean? Like, I was just looking at these things, like, I'm not in the pose that I, perfectly. And then I was thinking, well, this is stupid, because that's not what yoga is about. Then no one matters whether you're in the pose perfectly, so long as you're not hurting yourself. But at least that you're showing up, and then you're doing the yoga, and the rest of it will come, So
Most
even
people
now,
like me wouldn't even know if you're doing it right or not.
yeah, well, exactly. But we still have these thoughts that run through our head. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This article says body positivity, self-love, wellness, they've really replaced like the quick weight loss and fad diets that have kind of dominated. So I do like that shift that's been happening, but it says, how easy is it to erase the impact of diet culture that we've grown up with? Have we really moved on, or have our true feelings about weight and body size just become shrouded in secrecy and shame? And that part just kind of like hit me, because I feel like I do hide a lot of the struggles that I have with myself, especially like the shame and criticism, because I deal with feelings of people not taking me seriously, or no one would listen to health advice from someone who doesn't look like a fitness model. And I struggle a lot with self-worth for not looking like this picture in my mind of how I think I should look.
Yeah. I think that's
And
exactly.
I'm working on that. I'm working on it. Like, I'm aware that it's a problem, but it affects me really badly.
It's
There's
tough.
this one, yeah, it is. There's this one I'm going to share. I'm going to read her experience. So she says, I still think about weight loss and weight gain a lot. What's changed over time though is not how much I think about it, but how I think about it. I remember growing up, I was constantly thinking I was too fat and eating too much. The narrative was constant and negative, but now I question my thoughts so much more with kindness. Sometimes I will slip and then I'll answer myself much better. The intrusive thoughts will always be there, but if I know how to deal with them and redirect myself, then that makes it so much easier. And I think that's an important part for us all to learn, is to understand that we do have tendencies to think negative thoughts about ourselves, but it's learning the right questions to ask ourselves, like, is that really true? Like, do people really not take me seriously because I don't look like a fitness model, or is that a story I'm telling myself? So it's being able to ask those smart questions and challenge those thoughts, and to also redirect your thoughts as well. It's like, and remind yourself that these are not truths,
Yeah, well, you have so much education, probably more than the fitness model anyway. So like, you don't need to, or you could compare yourself and this fictional person that you're talking about, and you've got the same qualifications. Doesn't make you any less because you don't look the same way as that person. And I think that's and even though we can tell ourselves that, it's a hard one to come across. We're always looking for that external validation to know that, we are right in things. And then you're always surprised when, like, again, like I was probably looking for that validation that, it didn't matter that I wasn't in the right yoga pose. And then everyone commented about like, what a beautiful photo that is, and then you're like, oh, I wasted an hour.
Right.
With my thoughts.
It's that mental energy that we put into these things, it's like learning how to stop and redirect that. energy, because, oh man, there was one of, I didn't save it or pull it up right here, but there was one woman, she was talking about how she's an executive, or she's in a corporate position, and she remembers like sitting in a meeting, and she's like one of the only women in the room. It's all men. They're sitting around a boardroom table. And in the middle, there's like donuts and pastries and stuff. And she sat through the entire meeting and fixated on the donuts and pastries, and trying to talk herself out of wanting one, thinking about whether she should have one, if she's going to have one, if she should go to the gym, what did she eat earlier, should she have one, like just all those thoughts that go through our
So
heads
exhausting.
as women, just trying to make a decision if we want to eat a donut or not. And she's looking at all the men who just are just
Eating them.
eating and doing whatever they want. They don't care. And I'm not to say that men are just mindless eating machines, but I don't think most of them I'll just use my husband, for example. I know for a fact he is not thinking about 100 different reasons why he should not eat the donut, or how he's going to punish himself either physically in the gym or mentally with guilt later, that we do as women. And why do we do that?
And even my husband, he can just as quickly as say yes, say no too. Like he can just still go, oh no, I'm not interested. I don't feel like that now. When there's something, a dessert's being put out or something like that. And I'm like, how can you just say no like that?
I know. It's like, how do you ever not feel like
Yeah, that's right.
I don't feel like it maybe in the moment because it's not in front of my face. You put it in front of me. I was like, oh, I didn't even think about key lime pie. Yes, that sounds lovely.
I know, it's that decision fatigue. I think that mind chatter, that voice all the time going off, that's exhausting. Yeah. And it's a hard thing to manage. And I think it's like, we can work at it. There's different methods, and we've talked about different methods on the podcast before, but it's still something that I think you deal with,
Yeah.
It's something that I don't think it ever goes away. I don't think it, like, anyone can ever say, I feel perfectly about this situation, maybe redirect and reframe like the lady was saying, but she's still thinking about it. So
yeah. And I will say that there's been different parts of my life where I have been completely fine and like in a great place, health wise, where what I ate and how I exercised didn't consume every part of my thinking, but just like everything, things are cyclical, and we can be in one of those places where we're feeling good and strong and confident and making great decisions and being good, but life changes, and what used to be good and easy for a while changes. And so it's just learning about how to go with the flow, really. One of the books that's been really helpful for me, and I go back to it all the time, is Chasing Cupcakes by Elizabeth Benton. Such a good book. I definitely recommend it for anyone who maybe struggles with the mindset game when it comes to making healthy choices for ourselves in our lives. And it's not just around food, but around finances and procrastination and relationships and the things we do that are patterns in our decision making that keep us stuck in those same patterns. And so it's a really good book. I definitely recommend it for
we need to get her on the podcast.
That. I would love to, but
if you're listening, Elizabeth, please reach out.
I know. I don't think she's doing. I listen to her show all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's. We should probably do an episode on our favorite podcasts. But
yeah, we should.
Hers is definitely like one of mine. And I don't think she's doing like other shows because she's about to she's pregnant again, and she has little ones and all that stuff. So I think she's just doing and
her story is amazing. Like just how I think you can go back and listen to the podcast. I think if you Google her, you'll find it. She talks about how she knew she needed to do something, but it was really difficult. So she just got a treadmill, and just started walking a little bit, and then just kept making small changes until eventually it was a big change, which is quite inspiring as well. She was there for the long game, not the short game.
Yes, and we can maybe just close on this, but one of my favorite things that she has, because she's always about challenging your initial response. Like if your initial response is to eat the, let's just stick with the donuts, is to eat the donuts instead of like going through like instead of just following that, it's answering your questions. And it's like, well, if I eat the donut, I'm going to feel guilty. But it's like, we have to get rid of this like all or nothing, black or white mindset. It's like, what can I do that's maybe in the middle? Because there's a spectrum of yes or no. It's like, I can either eat the donut and feel guilty all day. I can eat the donut and not feel guilty all day. I can have one bite of the donut and be satisfied, or I can just not choose a donut. But it's like, she says it way better than I do, but she says we don't have to always think in absolutes. And it's not like if you choose to eat the donut, it doesn't mean your whole entire day is ruined.
Yeah.
But it's making the decision and owning it and moving on.
Exactly. And I think just to finish up with my thoughts too, is, have a look around you and see how far you've come and what you've achieved. And that I think always makes you feel, I don't know, humble and secure, when you look back at those things. Like, it's don't live life in the past. Don't live in the, what you could have had or should have had type, lifestyle. Look at what you have now, because you don't want that to pass you up. And, another example of that is an old person I was talking to who told me they were having trouble sleeping. And one of the reasons why was because they were lying awake at night, recapping every decision that they ever made in their life. And I don't want to get to, 70 years old and lay in bed awake at night, not sleeping, wishing I had made different decisions in my life. And if I did make those decisions, then, and maybe they weren't the right decision, I need to just accept that and move on and try and do better next time, or do different next time, not keep it in my mind, so that when I finally have the time in my life to relax and lay still, have all these thoughts start coming up of what I should have done in my life.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to live that way.
I don't either. I like how you said what you should have done or what you should do, or I like that expression when people say don't should all over yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I hope everyone's enjoyed this episode. We got a little bit deep, Holly. I think it's nice to go down that path sometimes and just let everyone know that we are humans too. We have all the feels as well.
Yeah, not just total rock star podcasters. We're normal people. I will link up this article in the show notes, because I think it's worth a read. And they have like a whole series of it, and it looks pretty good. So sometimes it's really just nice to read honest thoughts from complete strangers. So stay tuned for more updates on what is to come with the podcast and the changes. And like Leah said, the back end stuff, the techie stuff, that'll probably be a slower transition, but our episodes are going to start changing pretty quickly here. So you will see a little bit of a change in the format, and then all the back end stuff to follow.
And that was our real health conversation for today.
Yes. Yeah. All right. We have a tagline now. All right. Well, that is the end of today's episode. Our theme music is created by Andrew Bowden, and production services are by Kevin Kennedy Spain of Disco Light Media. Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week.